Lost to lock.
Let's go!
If we could address you directly right now.
Everything comes full
0-0.
circle.
Good morning.
That's number one.
I don't tell him what questions to ask me.
There are a lot of people around town that have the same question.
Brush my teeth. I'm a good wash in the morning.
I can't confirm or deny.
You know, just keep going a little bit longer here, Mike. Keep going a little bit longer.
Radio. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome to Newhouse Afternoon. I'm Jackson Cowan, joined by Samantha Barlow and Geraldine Paglia. The Orange basketball, hey, you know, they continue to struggle. Before that, though, I do want to tease. We're going to be talking NBA player loyalty a little bit later. That's going to be our fun segment. But the Orange, they continue to struggle, and they lose to probably the worst team in the ACC, 91-84. They lose to the Hurricanes. That was Tuesday night, so 2 days ago now. Just another performance where it seems like they came ready to play, but defensively they're not connected at all. When they're helping on ball screens and things like that, it seems like it's not a team that's played together the whole season. It seems like this is a team that you're just adding a new player each and every week, it feels like, because it doesn't seem like they've practiced together for the whole year based on how much they are just getting beat on defense, and they gave them 91 points.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't think you can even hear me in this. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that, honestly, defense has been a continued problem for them. It was one of their better scoring games for the entire season. Eddie Lampkin and Chris Bell came out to a hot start early. JJ Starling led the team with 25 points on the game. So it's not that they had a bad shooting night. It's just when defense continues to be your problem, there's nothing you can do about it. And unfortunately for them, Matthew Cleveland for the Miami Hurricanes had a career-high night with 32 points. So it doesn't help when you have a player come out and shoot a career-high against you on a night when you can't get a single stop. So I think defense just continues to be a problem. And if they want to move on into the ACC tournament and actually put together some good games, they have to figure out the problem on defense, because offense isn't going to get you there. You have to be able to get those stops.
I think fortunately or unfortunately, too, like Miami just had an insane shooting night. Like everything, like we were talking about it last week for Syracuse, everything was falling. And then for Miami today, like a couple days ago, shots were just falling. They made 10 3-pointers, and were 55% from the floor, 50% from beyond the arc. I mean, everything was just connecting for Miami. And unfortunately, again, we've talked about this before, when Syracuse is down, it's so hard for them to make that jump to get back in front, and it showed.
Yeah, and I mean, I think unfortunately for them, that game against Miami was a must-win. With them losing, it now bumps them back to 15th in the conference, which puts them right back on the bubble for the championship and stuff like that. So not a good game to have lost. And your next game is against UNC, who is 7th in the conference. Yeah. And if you can't put up defense against Miami, what are you going to do when you walk into the Dome and you're playing UNC, who is 7th and is a decently good team? They're 7-6 in the conference. They've been playing well all season. They did lose their last game against Clemson, but I think that they're going to come out hot, and I'm just a little bit worried about the Orange's ability to get some stops and play well down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, 50% from three. I mean, it's not going to be every night that teams are shooting that well against you, regardless of the defense. I mean, some nights people are just going to get hot, and I still don't think the Orange played well defensively. The good thing is, and you guys kind of touched on it, 87 points. They kind of got contributions from around the lineup, but anytime JJ Starling has 20, if you get Eddie Lampkin to have 20, so if you have JJ Starling with over 20 and then somebody else on the team with over 20, you're going to have a chance to win. The problem now is you have to win those games, because we've seen JJ Starling have a couple off games. There's been games when he's only scored 8 to 10 points, and those are games that it's tough for the Orange to stick around. So when they play NC State and they play UVA in the next 2 or 3 weeks, two teams that are below them. Well, NC State's below them. UVA is a little above them. Two teams that are also kind of fighting to get in the ACC tournament. Those are games that you're going to have to be able to find ways to win, especially if J.J. Starling plays that well and somebody else is contributing the way that Eddie Lampkin did last night. And then Chris Bell also had 14, so it wasn't like there was a lack of scoring. But you said it. Can they get stops against UNC? That's going to be a big story because R.J. Davis is going to come into the Dome, and it seems like Syracuse is just going to get lit up again if they play like they did against Miami.
It makes me feel a little bit better that they're at the Dome. I mean, we know that they're not great on the road. They're 2-6 away. So being in the Dome makes me feel a little bit better, but kind of like you were talking about, you have those couple players that have a good game that are hot, that gets us like those a lot of rebounds and a lot of points for the Orange, but you need to see that kind of across the court. We need to have fluidity and kind of chemistry with every single player in order to get the win. And I think that's kind of what showed in Miami, is like we had those couple players that were hot, like Eddie Lampkin and Chris Bell, but it just wasn't enough because you can't have those individual players doing everything.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we touched on the last time we were on here was the lack of fan attendance. So I think even when you're at home in the Dome, if you don't have fans that are there cheering you on and like at your back, it makes it a little bit hard, and I think that can get into your head a little bit just as a team, because everything about Syracuse's fan engagement and the Orange are a really passionate fan base, and so when they stop showing up for you, it makes it really easy to stop showing up for yourself, especially when you're sitting on that bubble and you're sitting at 15th and you're possibly staring down the barrel of the end of your season.
Yeah.
So I think it's just really important that the Orange get out of their own head and they just go out and play the basketball that they know how to play, and that they just play one game at a time. Focus on those 60 minutes, lock in, focus, get the game, get the win, and then move on to whatever's next after that.
It does seem like, especially on the defensive end, to your point about kind of just forgetting about it, just go out and play basketball, it does seem like they need to do a little bit of that, where it's like, hey, just guard my guy. It seems like sometimes they're so worried about, am I helping in? Am I ready to kind of slide and help over? Are we doubling a certain player and things like that? So I do think that if you're the Orange, especially on defense, it's almost like throw out the game plan, just go and compete for 40 minutes. That's all you got to do, is just compete for 40 minutes, because if you score 84 points, you should win. Right. But when you're playing defense like the Orange are, it's just not happening. But the Orange, they'll play Saturday against UNC. That game's at 6 p.m. in the Dome. The women's team, meanwhile, first West Coast trip of the season, they're going to face off against Stanford. 10 p.m., a late one, folks. So just kind of hopefully maybe get an afternoon nap right after you're done listening to us, and Cody Mack right after us. Maybe get a little nap in before the women get on tonight. But 10 p.m., they played Wake Forest last, the game that they won 62-50. So what do you guys expect to see out of the women in Stanford? What do you want to see continue or maybe change a little bit?
So for me, I think one of the big things is you have to find the stop against Nunu Agara, who is going to be Stanford's leading scorer, leading player. She's a sophomore. She's 6'2". She's very big. She's very powerful, and she's very smart on the court. So I think, speaking of defense, the Orange need to find a way to contain her, keep an eye on her game, while also getting their other players activated. I mean, obviously you've got Georgia Woolley and Sophie Burrows coming out and making some good plays. So I think if you can get your players activated and you can make sure that you're getting those stops on defense, I think you can put together the win and you can get your first West Coast win of the season.
I was going to say, Coach Jack said, we're getting better and we're coming. And I mean, they've been hot these last couple games. We were talking about it. The players are really connecting. I mean, Sophie Burrows at Virginia Tech, she almost tied Deasia Fair for most threes in a game. She had 8. Deasia Fair had 9. I mean, 8 3-pointers is crazy to have in a single game. But I think she's been doing phenomenal for the Orange, and just capitalizing on that and making sure that the players are going back to the basics, but also playing their game and having fun. I mean, you see that they're on the court, they're having fun. And it shows in the scoreboard as well. I mean, the comeback win against Wake Forest was phenomenal.
Yeah.
You kind of talked about 8 threes in a game. Like Miami, we were talking about how good Miami shot the other night in the men's game, and they made 10. So the fact that Sophie Burrows is kind of starting to heat up, that's a really good sign.
Shots were falling.
She was flame throwing. Just great to see. But the Orange now 3-1 in their last 4, and I think I talked about it 2 weeks ago a little bit. Was after that Boston College game, a game they got blown out. No Georgia Woolley, and they really just struggled to generate offensively. Sophie Burrows had, I believe, 15 in that game. The Orange, it seems like they've turned a corner. They've given up They've given up like under 60 or under 70 rather in 3 of the last 4 games, 70 or under, I should say. And so I just think that it's an Orange team that's, they're finally starting to play better. And defensively, we talked about how bad the men's team is. The women's team, they threw a little bit of zone in there Sunday, I believe, against Wake Forest, and just kind of changing up some looks. So for Coach Jack's squad, you said they're starting to score. I think they're starting to play defense as well, which is really going to help them down the stretch. And they're a little more snug, I guess, in an ACC spot right now for a chance in the championship, or the tournament, I should say. But they're also 4-9 in the ACC, or 4-8 in the ACC, so they still got a little room to, you can't lose a ton of games if you're the women's team either.
Yeah, I think the nice part though is they're coming off of a 2-game win streak, like we were just talking about, and Stanford's on a 3-game losing streak. So the Orange are getting hot. Stanford's slowing down. Obviously, that means that Stanford's going to come out looking for a win because they're going to be rightfully mad that they've lost the last 3. I think that's something that the Orange need to be prepared for. Is you're on your 2-game win streak. Keep that momentum alive. Keep building on it. Keep believing in your girls, and keep focusing on the internal, and just do all the things that you can control. So go out and play good basketball, focus on the game. Don't worry about the outside outliers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Orange need to have confidence in themselves. One thing Sophia Burrows said after the Virginia Tech game is she felt the confidence and she felt the support from her teammates. So that's why she had the confidence to throw those threes, and they were going. And to make sure that that confidence is seen throughout the team, like, you have players that are going to come and step up, and I think they can pull out the win in Stanford.
Yeah, 100%. We did see, though, with the men's team, they kind of stumbled when they played Stanford first on their West Coast road trip. Hopefully the women will kind of be ready to go. It is a tough road trip to make. They play at 10 p.m. tonight. That's all for us at the moment. We'll be right back here on ESPN Radio Syracuse on 97.7 and 100.1 FM.
Syracuse basketball.
Thank you.
I can't hear you guys in my headphones. That's why I was so confused. I was like, I feel like the headset is completely, because I can hear you outside of them, but actually in the box, I can't hear you at all.
Turn the one. Let's see. Turn the one on the left. That one. Turn it up.
Which one?
No, the one on the right. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah. I can hear you too.
No.
No. Try number 3.
Okay, your headset number 3, Sam.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, on one side, but not the other.
That's how it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't hear anything. Okay.
I think that's why. I think I messed that up. That's on me.
Are your guys' audios okay? Like, do
Yeah,
you want me to
good.
turn them up at all?
No, mine's good.
Okay. I was like sitting here and I was like,
Sorry. You can turn me up. You can turn me up in here, but
what are you, 2 Jax?
yeah.
I was like, I can't hear anything right now.
It's okay.
Sophie Burrows. Oh, forgot to mention 21, almost 22 points in the last 3
She
games.
was the spark.
She is cooking.
Yeah, she was the spark in
She
Wake
needs to
Forest.
keep
that,
cooking.
That 3-pointer that she made was literally the turnaround point for her in Wake Forest, or like the whole team in Wake Forest. Like,
Yeah.
Because they were down 12 at one point.
yeah, and then they went on a 9-0 run after
Yeah.
she made that 3.
Probably should have mentioned that.
I know.
It's all right.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Things happen.
no, it was that. Midway, like right in the middle of the second quarter,
Yeah.
she hit that 3, and then they started like cooking. They also started playing better defensively. They were giving up too much in the paint at first, but kind of got away from that, which was good.
Jax, what's our out for segment 2?
The time,
Yeah.
2:26.
Got it. Now for lacrosse.
M-lax and W-lax.
It's so fun to watch these men play.
Whoop, whoop.
And women.
And women.
Jackson Cowan loves women.
People are listening.
And they were listening last time too. It's fine.
What's going on in the Twitch stream, Jackson?
There's nothing in the chat box right now.
Nothing.
We're just here. But we have 15 viewers. It's fine. Hey, viewers. Hope you guys are enjoying this.
Yeah, I mean, the men's lacrosse team, they look so good.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's
good.
actually gross to watch them play.
Luke Roa is disgusting. He is
That
so good.
last shot in the fourth quarter from Owen Hiltz to Luke Roa was absolutely beautiful
I don't
and
remember that
so
one.
fun.
I just remember his first 2. They were both just lefty stings in the corner.
Owen Hiltz lobbed it over the goalie, and Luke Roa jumps and nails it into the net, like over the
Parkour.
goalie's head, and then like lands in the crease. And I was just like,
Love that.
it was so nice.
Yeah, 3-game winning streak for the men. Let's go.
This is
Women
their
only
first
won.
big test, though.
Yeah.
I thought Towson would be more of a test than it was. I was expecting that game to be closer, and then
I was
the second
too.
half they got some saves. I mean, part of it is Towson didn't win a face-off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
John Mullen.
Towson came out and played a good game in the beginning. I was a little
Yeah.
when I was watching the score, it was pretty close in the beginning, and then
They
Syracuse
came
just
back
ran
a little
away
bit
with
in
it.
the third. I mean, they were just like, I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah. It was just craziness.
I think it's going to be very interesting that for the women's lax game.
Jordan, am I early on ending it, or is that right about the right time? Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go Maryland at 2 p.m.
And then the women are at 11 sharp.
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 Seven and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back to Newhouse Afternoon alongside Samantha Barlow, Geraldine Polly. I'm Jackson Cowan. Just kind of talking in the break a little bit, getting ready for the SU lacrosse season. But first off, I got to tell you, this hour of Newhouse Afternoon is powered by Drivers Village of Cicero. Go to dvoffers.com for more information. But the men's team, they're cooking right now.
They are cooking.
They just beat Towson on Monday, and that was their first ranked matchup of the season. And a team that went to the CAA championship a year ago.
Yep.
They handled Towson. They handled the Tigers. Geraldine, what are you kind of seeing so far?
I mean, this is just a special, special group. Not only are they strong on the offense, they're strong on the defense. And, I mean, it is just – we talk about having fun on the court. I mean, the players were just having so much fun on the field. Like, every single ball – like, all the ball movement they were doing, a lot of the what Coach Gate was saying was that they're focusing on not just – like shooting every single like shot that they can, but like making sure they actually have an open net or a shot or like a solidified goal. And you could see that like they were making the passes, they were waiting and handling the ball super well, and it just showed. I mean, 18-7.
I think one of the interesting things that we talked about in our first week when we were previewing the lacrosse season was that we were a little bit concerned about when you have all these big players and all of these really talented players, how do you make that come together in a team? How do you not have guys stepping on each other's toes? And I think so far in their first 3 games of the season, they've done an excellent job of that. They've got Joey Spolina handling the ball, which I think is incredible because he's got such good field IQ. He knows when to make the plays. He knows how to make the plays. And his vision for it is just phenomenal. He is just honestly unmatched in that area. And I think it makes so much sense that he's the one kind of pushing the team into these plays. And it also helps because if other people and other guys aren't getting activated or they're not having as good of a game, he can turn it on like that. Like Joey can just become a lighthouse in just a minute. So I think having him be your primary ball handler with the talent that he has and the team that is around him just makes so much sense for this Orange team.
I mean, he had 4 assists, so talking about his lacrosse IQ and just kind of being a field general, but also being able to get to the rack and score when he wants to. But, I mean, he had 6 points against Towson. You can't ask for much more than that from your best player at the end of the day, especially in a game like that where fourth quarter it's kind of actually, fourth quarter it took him a little while, but the other 2 games, fourth quarter is kind of out of reach. But I think the biggest thing is you can tell that they all are having fun. Like every time somebody scores, it's kind of cliche to say a little bit, like in college lacrosse especially, that's kind of your job. There's 15, 20 guys on the bench that don't necessarily play that much, so they're all getting fired up. But all 6 guys that are on the offense, when somebody scores, they're coming together, they're hyped, they're getting loud, and the defense is doing the same thing. Jimmy McCool's getting his guys together, and they're fired up as well. So this is a team that it seems like they love scoring goals, and they love when their teammates score goals, which I think is really what kind of helps row the boat a little bit. Is just when I'm happy that Sam scores, I'm not afraid to give Sam the ball,
Right.
Absolutely not. I mean, we could see it in the fourth quarter. I know we talked about it in the break, but I have to talk about it again. There was a phenomenal goal to end the game with Owen Hiltz and Luke Roa. I mean, Owen Hiltz just lobbed it over the goalie's head, and Luke Roa, tapped
just
it in.
slam dunk.
It was literally a slam dunk, and it was beautiful. And then Owen was asked about it in the post game, and it's just he's like, oh, that's just my buddy. We were just having fun. I'm like, you're just having fun. That was a phenomenal goal. It is just so fun, like you said, to watch them play, because you can tell that they're having fun. Also, the face-offs, John Mullen with the face-offs was insane. He had probably the best performance of the season so far, and I think it starts all there too. If you win the face-off, you have the control, but it also sets the tone for the game in making sure that whether to hold on to the ball, take it down, or pass it off to someone. He did a phenomenal job controlling the game.
100%.
Yeah, I think Jimmy McCool played well too. He had 9 saves. Really kind of came on in the second half. I thought he had a really good second half that helped the Orange kind of start to generate that lead. They were winning, and it seemed like they were in control the whole way, but there were some moments in the second quarter, especially when it was became a 4-goal game. I can't remember if it was a 3-goal game at any point, but just some moments when it seemed like the Orange couldn't necessarily get a stop when Towson did win a faceoff or did get a save, and I think he did a great job finally in the third quarter, really starting to find his footing. He made a couple big saves, and then the Orange just kind of started to run away with it. But they were scoring almost at will. It seemed like every time they got a possession, they were putting the ball in the back of the net, and like you said, just having fun. Everybody ate on Monday, so
yeah. We're going to hope that we can see them do the same thing on Saturday. They're going to get their first big test. It's their first game away, and they're going against their first big out of conference test of the season. So
top 10 clash here.
Yeah, number 6 in the country, Maryland. So
let's go. I think a big thing to note here is the history between these two teams. I mean, SU has lost 6 straight to Maryland in their history. The last time that they lost was in the NCAA quarterfinals in 2011, which was 6-5 OT loss. So that's important to note. They also are 6-14 against Maryland all time.
Yeah.
And the big thing to note is that their last win versus Maryland was in 2009, which is the same year that they won the championship. So do we think that a win against Maryland could be a good omen for a championship year for the Orange?
Absolutely. I mean, you have Joey Spallina just won or was honored with the Offensive ACC Player of the Week, and then you have Eric Spanos, Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week. So it's definitely going to be a tough kind of matchup, but I think that if they play their game, they kind of keep the composure. It is their first road game too, but they can pull out the win, and it's definitely going to be a good omen to see if they can kind of make that push to the national championship. I mean, they look great so far.
I mean, if you're a diehard Syracuse lacrosse fan like I am, you're looking for signs from 2009. So I think that the Maryland, when you told me that, I was fired up, because I think they can win a national championship anyway. But if they win this weekend, I'm gonna be telling everybody on the streets. I'm gonna be singing down Marshall Street. Hey, look!
You heard it here. Yeah, Jackson's gonna be singing.
Yeah, the Orange are gonna be national champs. But yeah, first road test. And if you look at last year's game, 13-12 in overtime, tough loss for the Orange. But I think that's the type of game we're gonna get. I think it's gonna be I think it'll probably be a little more offensive this year. No Ajax Zapatillo for Maryland. Was a top 5 pick in the PLL draft last year, one of their best defensive players. So I think both teams Syracuse loses Will Mark. I think both teams are a little better offensively, and I think they're going to be a little worse defensively. So I think maybe 15-13, I think the Orange are going to win. But yeah, like you said, it's been a while, but I think the Orange, I think they're ready to go. First road test, I think that's always fun though. You get to hop on the bus with the fellas, just have a good time, get dialed in, and they're going to be in College Park, I think, ready to go.
Yeah.
And then the women's team, they got a big matchup against Maryland as well. Maryland also a top 10 ranked team in women's lacrosse. So that one also going to be a clash of heavyweights. The Orange also ranked in the top 10. So both of those squads, both lacrosse squads, going to be down in College Park this weekend. And the Syracuse women's team, they beat Albany last game. But I think we kind of talked about it briefly 2 weeks ago. New goalie coach and Coach Cook this week. That's probably the biggest question mark I would say right now.
Yeah, I think goaltending is just something that they need to figure out in the Kings. Like, they did a great job against Albany, but the goaltending was just not where they need to be, and especially going against Maryland and traveling as well. Like, that's definitely something that hopefully they're working on right now.
Yeah.
That can be solid and ready to go for Maryland.
I think another big thing to note here is this is going to be Maryland's first game as well.
Right.
So, like we were talking about the last time we were here, it's hard to game plan against a team that you haven't seen play yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Orange women only have one game under their belt, and they're going against a fresh Maryland team who hasn't played a single game yet on their home turf. So, you have to wonder, can they pull it together? Like, are they going to be able to do this? They look like a great team so far in their first game. Unfortunately for them, these two teams have a similar history to the men's teams.
Mm-hmm.
So, SU is 2-21 against Maryland all time. And they're 1-9 on the road. So, I think historically it's not looking great, but the team looks good this year. So, as long as they can get some good goalie minutes out of Daniela Gayette and get some good stops and activate their offense, I think they've got a chance. I think they could play a really good game, and regardless, I think it's going to be a really good watch.
Yeah, it is worth noting Olivia Adamson and Emma Ward, 5 and 6 points each. Olivia Adamson had a hat trick to go along with 3 assists, but like you said, they're going to need to get some goaltending. Similar to the men's team last year, these two teams played at the Dome. Maryland won in overtime. So again, I think we're going to get a very close game. And like you said, Daniela Gayette, she made 3 saves in the game against Albany. Only faced 9 shots over. I think it was she came out the last 10 minutes of the game. But I do think that there's plenty of opportunities for the defense to get saves for the Syracuse squad, but I think they'll be all right. Again, I think they're going to go down. You talked about the record, not great against Maryland all time, but the good thing is the only 2 wins have come in the last 3 matchups, so maybe they're starting to turn a corner. But unfortunately, that's all our time at the moment. We'll be right back here with more on the Four Nations here on ESPN Radio Syracuse on 97.7 and 100.1 FM.
This is Orange Nation.
I think we also have
Thank you.
I think we also have to note that, like, Maryland might have some, like, first game jitters. There's always like first season, like, what's going to happen. This might be the game where they're working out their kinks. I mean, obviously Syracuse had a little bit of kinks in the Albany game. They got the win, but there is definitely kinks they need to work out. And now they're going to be coming into Maryland knowing what they need to work on.
Yep.
So I think that gives me a little bit more of a better feeling having Syracuse go into Maryland.
I definitely agree.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Maryland didn't get a game in before this, just because
Me too.
It is kind of one of those things, like you said, if you play Albany, you won 21-9, so 12 goals.
Yeah.
You have time, you have the week to practice and prepare.
Exactly.
Hey, look, this is what maybe we weren't very good on our clears, we weren't our free possession shots weren't very good, things like that. I think that's one of the benefits of playing a game like against a team like Albany, who it's going to be tough and you can't fall asleep against them, but at the same time, you probably should win, and so I think it'll be good for the Orange to just kind of have that week of, this is what we need to do better, and now you get to go. I also like the doubleheader, just having both games right back to back. The women's game at 11 a.m. You can just hang out in College Park, get something to eat, and then go right to the men's game if you're traveling down there. So be good to get a little bit, but
I think it'll also, honestly, having the doubleheader, I think, is helpful for both of the teams because you have built-in fans there with you.
Yeah.
So even if you don't have people that are traveling to Maryland with you, you've got your women's team and you've got your men's team at your back. So I think it's helpful to just have automatic fans built in, and it's people who understand the game at a level that most people don't. So they're even better fan service because they know how to support you and they know how to get you out of that rut when they can see it happening. So I think just having both the teams there will be helpful during the actual matches to have some fans on the road.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. It's also, I think, like I said, I think it's fun to go down, get on the road, just kind of hang out together and ride the bus and everything like that. But looking at Maryland's schedule, it's so, seeing Oregon, USC on their schedule, both as Big Ten games, is so weird. It's still weird to me, especially for lacrosse, where a lot of teams aren't necessarily big lacrosse schools, and so I see that, and it throws me off. Football, I'm starting to get it a little bit, but lacrosse, I'm looking down, and I'm shocked to see Oregon on their schedule. Like, that's so bizarre. But
listen, you never know. Oregon could come out and just absolutely be a dominating lacrosse team.
Hey.
You have no idea what they've got cooking up over there.
yeah, I can admit I don't have a great scouting report on the Oregon Ducks, but at the same time, I think it just surprises me to look down and see them. But 11 a.m. morning game.
Bright and early. Well, not bright and early, but
I mean,
Women are going to be off to a hot start.
Yeah, it's definitely there aren't many games they're playing that early. I don't think that's kind of looking at their schedule.
I mean, Syracuse though has a pretty gnarly season starter too. I mean, they got Maryland, then they got Cornell, then they have
UNC,
Chapel Hill,
Northwestern,
Clemson, Stanford, Johns Hopkins. Like, that doesn't get easier for them either.
Welcome to ACC lacrosse.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. I think this is the only. No, they have another game. They play Pitt at 11 a.m. Oh, jeez.
Also,
And UNC.
Thank you.
Thank you.
chaotic thing to note, it's supposed to be raining in Maryland on Saturday, and it's an outdoor field.
Better than the alternative, though. Better than the alternative. If they were playing outdoors here, it would be lake effect snow is coming.
Let's go.
This might be a hot take, but I always when I would play in the rain, something about it would just amp me up.
Oh yeah, the activation of being covered in mud and just being soaking wet, and you're just I am ready to light fires. Yeah, it's intense.
No thanks.
Right?
The problem is
snow, no, because when you're hitting the field hockey stick and your hands hurt, that's a no-go. But rain, something about it just amped me up.
Yeah.
Yeah, not for me. Because playing lacrosse outside, your gloves get so wet and your elbow pads and stuff, it's just soaking wet. Which I know field hockey, you're obviously not wearing as much.
I was gonna say we have
for soccer.
I mean, same with
soccer,
women.
You got a jersey and shorts, so rock with it.
Lean with it, rock with it.
ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back to Newhouse Afternoon on ESPN Radio Syracuse. I'm Jackson Cowan alongside Geraldine Paglia and Samantha Barlow. We had an exciting one last night. Four Nations got kicked off.
Don't get me started.
Geraldine is very excited, but for anyone that doesn't know, before we kind of get into it, the Four Nations, it's replacing the NHL All-Star break this season. So 2 weeks off, I get 2 weeks off from the NHL season. It's Sweden, Finland, the U.S., and Canada. Little round-robin tournament, and then there's going to be a two-team championship at the end. It's taking place over the course of the next week. Basically, it'll wrap up Thursday next week.
Thursday.
Will be the championship game taking place in Montreal and Boston. The game last night was in Montreal. The game tonight will be in Montreal as well. But the first game of the tournament, Sweden, Canada. Geraldine, I'll go to you. What a game.
What a game. 50 seconds into the game, Sweden gets a penalty, and Sidney Crosby with a beautiful behind the back to Nathan McKinnon, and just, chef's kiss. This Team Canada is, obviously it's the best on best hockey. So each team has incredible players, but Team Canada, you have Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid, two of the fastest players in the NHL. It's incredible to see them go up and down the rink. It is actually incredible. I have no words.
Probably the two fastest players in the NHL.
Yeah.
I think in a game like that, anytime you have the best of the best playing in these kind of games and they're representing their home country, there's always a different element to it. So obviously when they go to play for All-Star break, it's a little bit more of a relaxed, we're the best of the best, but we're just here for fun kind of situation. When you come out and you're representing your country, there's a whole different fire that is ignited under that, because you're we're not losing. This is my turf. Don't play. And when you have people like Sidney Crosby, who is just one of the greatest hockey players, he's just fantastic, and you put him with a bunch of other people who are fantastic, you're going to get phenomenal hockey.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so much fun to watch, because you get to see these people be the 1 and 2 options on they're respectful teams.
Right.
But then you put them all on the same team and you're watching them come together, and it's just so fun and almost chaotic because
Little bit.
there's just so much greatness happening at once that you're like, who's going to be the standout today when you're all standouts in general? So I think that's the best part about it. And honestly, I kind of like when Four Nations replaces the All-Star break because
I agree.
I don't really think the All-Star break is a massive thing unless you're a really avid hockey fan, because then obviously you're going to be watching any hockey that's going to get put in front of you.
Right.
But when you get something like this, I think you can appeal to a more casual fan because it's always fun watching the best of the best come out and play this really competitive, really intense hockey. And it's such a short little stint that you really don't have to like pay attention for long,
Right.
but you get some of the most quality games you'll probably ever see.
Absolutely.
The last night's game was the best game I've seen since Game 7.
Yeah.
Last year when Florida and Edmonton. And to your point, I 100% agree. The last couple of years, the All-Star game, it's okay. I mean, it's 3-on-3 hockey. It's, yeah, like you said, they're not always trying their hardest, especially defensively, and it's kind of just breakaway, 2-on-1, breakaway. And it does kind of not get old because watching them doesn't get old. But
a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, how many times can I watch Connor McDavid go through the legs? Like, I want to see him like back check. I want to see him get hit. And to your point about the All-Star game kind of being not always intense, last night was intense. It was
intense.
I think a lot of people kind of talked to you beforehand. All these guys want to win the Stanley Cup, and so
Yeah.
how much would this mean to them? And at the same point, will this be super intense hockey? At the end of the day, some of them are teammates. Some of them, I mean, they're friends at the same time, but some hits were thrown and bodies were flying early on. But that first goal, Sidney Crosby just catches the pass, and I mean, he's probably the best passer ever on his backhand. Just spinorama, right back door, Nathan McKinnon wide open net. Next
It was
thing you know,
beautiful.
yeah. I mean, a minute in, it was unreal, and then Canada kind of takes a 2-0 lead, but Sweden hung around. I was
surprised. I really thought that Canada was just taking it. It was going to be a shutout. I mean, Braden Point got the assist. Local guy. He played for the Crunch for a little bit here to Brad Marchand. But I was shocked. I mean, I was happy that Sweden kind of hung around because it made for a really good game overtime. But Canada looked so good in the beginning, and then Sweden kind of, I think, found their footing. I mean, they only had, I think, 2 practices maybe before this, so it's not easy to kind of go from playing with all these different players in your respective teams to then come and learn these new players' quirks and styles and everything, so I give Sweden credit.
100%. And we kind of talk like there's so much skill. You kind of said it, especially even at the All-Star game, there's so much skill. But to your point, they have to gel at the same time. But for Sweden, it's kind of one of those things. It didn't seem like they were really in the game. It was 2-0, and then it was 3-1, and then all of a sudden it was tied. they chipped away. But I think that Swedish hockey is kind of. It's not as flashy, but it's just playing good together as a team, which they did the whole game. And then all of a sudden in the second period, the intensity starts to get ramped up. In the first period, I thought they were not matching Canada's intensity. It felt like Canada was really bringing it to them. But one kind of small point I do want to bring up is that Canadian goaltending, that was kind of a concern for Team Canada. I don't think Jordan Binnington, I think he could have stopped one of the first 2. But in overtime, he made 2 unreal saves. Philip Gustafsson also made a couple unreal saves in overtime. That overtime was, if the NHL doesn't take 10-minute 3-on-3 overtime to add next year, I mean, that was the best hockey I've seen maybe ever. That was unreal. I don't know.
Mitch Marner's goal at the end. Like, come on. I mean, I just think that you give them time to kind of play their game, and it was just phenomenal. But Sam, to your point, I think that just the All-Star break got a little, like Jackson, like you said, boring. And then players were also dropping out because they're like, this is not worth it for me to play in this to get hurt. And yeah, we had a couple players kind of drop out before the Four Nations, or they were hurt, so they didn't feel it was necessary. But this is more than just a fun All-Star break for them to kind of continue to play when there isn't much hockey going on. This is them playing for like their background, for just representing where they come from, which is really cool to see. And I think you can also see it on the ice.
I think also anybody who watches hockey understands that hockey players are some of the most competitive people on this planet. They are nasty. Like especially when there is country affiliation involved. Yeah. I mean, you see it when the Olympics come around or any kind of major tournament like this where you are wearing your country's flag or your country's colors. The team spirit that comes out at that point makes these great players almost terrifying. Like you're looking at these giant men in pads just wrecking each other. They don't care if they're teammates. They don't care if they're brothers. They're going to take you out because they want to win. And I think that's what makes it so much fun. And it breathes new life into the concept of the best on best hockey. It gives it just such a levity that I don't think you get from an NHL All-Star break. So I think this is a really good way to be able to see these great players come together and do what they do without the, I guess, lacklusterness of an all-star break because, like we said, they just don't really care that much when it's just all-stars, you know?
Yeah.
And Gary Bettman he said that they're planning to have the World Cup of Hockey come back in 3 years now, so it'll be 2 years after the Olympics, hopefully, instead of the all-star break, which I'm really excited about. We've talked a lot about the game last night. The U.S., they're going to get their first game. America gets their first game tonight. They're playing Team Finland. That game is going to be at 8 o'clock tonight, like I said, in Montreal. Big storyline, I think, for the U.S. kind of coming in was the goaltending, Connor Hellebuck. Unfortunately, Jeremy Swayman's not going to be playing. I know you're a Bruins fan. But from the U.S. side...
Hurts my heart.
Yeah. From the U.S. side, I think they have a lot to offer. And we talked about the intensity. The Kachucks, they're going to be intense, I think.
They are. I think them being on the team, the same team for the first time and probably since they were little, this is really cool for not only them, but as a fan, as an avid watcher, to see them play. Their chemistry is going to be insane. And I think Matthew said something along the lines of it's just going to be really cool to play with his brother.
Yeah. And this will be the 5th time we've seen a set of American brothers play together at an international tournament. This is the first time we're seeing it since 1996.
Yep.
So I think it'll be really fun. And obviously when you have a player as great as Matthew Tkachuk, it's fun to watch him in general, but now he's going to get to have his brother on the ice with him, which I think just adds a whole different element of it because you obviously become brothers with your teammates, so you have a gel and a vibe there. But when you're actual brothers and you're finally getting to play together, I think there's just going to be a cool camaraderie that we're going to get to see with that. And listen, you want to talk about impassioned players. Nobody plays the way USA players play. I know that on paper, the Canadian team looks like this giant powerhouse, and don't get me wrong, they are. But the USA players, I mean, Matthew Tkachuk himself said it. They're treating this entire thing like game sevens after game sevens after game sevens. So they're coming out for blood.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be really fun to watch them tonight and just see what they can put together. And obviously, Coach Mike Sullivan has already talked about the fact that they're going to have to figure out how to get all these big players to fit in. And so I think it'll just be fun to see them put it together and see what USA Hockey can do tonight.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, we'll have more on the Four Nations when we come back here on ESPN Radio Syracuse on 97.7 and 100.1 FM.
Hey, this is former Syracuse basketball.
So
Thank you.
Talk
excited.
about connections. Mark Sullivan is the father-in-law. Mike, sorry. I get too excited.
That's okay.
Mike Sullivan is the father-in-law to Charlie McAvoy, and McAvoy just had a kid. He has dad power.
I am listen, I love me some USA Hockey players. I think, I mean, you see it when they come out and play for the Olympics. It just gets crazy.
I know.
The Tkachuks are like Matthew Tkachuk is going to bury somebody.
No, he
absolutely.
is going to annihilate.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He's going to go right at Sasha Barkov, his teammate. Probably the first shift he's on the ice with him.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be dropping the gloves right then and there.
I think the funniest part, too, is getting to see this is so fun because you have teammates going against teammates when they separate for their nationalities, and there's 6 sets of NHL teammates happening in the game tonight. So you've got Carolina Hurricanes, Dallas Stars, Florida Panthers, New Jersey Devils, New York Rangers, and the Ottawa Senators, all with players on opposite sides of the ice. So I think it just makes it fun when you get to see these guys who they know the inside and out. They know how you play. They know how your mind works in a game. So I think it adds a cool competitive element to it because you're looking at somebody that you play with constantly. You know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And so being able to get one over on your own teammate is just so much fun to watch because who else do you know better than people you spend all of your time with.
Yeah, we saw it last night with Adrian Kempe. The tying goal for Sweden was Drew Doughty was the one defending, so his teammate in LA, and kind of cool to see that like whole dynamic. It's definitely been a lot of fun.
On the opposite side, though, too, I think it's interesting. Like, I know a lot of people don't love Brad Marchand, but then to just, like, be, like, on the same team as him is pretty cool.
Also, seeing him get cheered for in Montreal, that is not something you see very often.
No.
That was pretty cool when he scored last night.
You're crooked.
Oh.
It's okay.
I'm a star.
Also,
I'm a star.
Crunch players, John Cooper, Canada's head coach, he coached for them. We mentioned Braden Point, and then Sam Montembeau, one of the Canadian goalies as well.
Yeah, really cool
some
to see.
Good Syracuse connections at the Four Nations. That's going to be good.
I'm also having the best time because I love seeing my Tampa Bay Lightning boys in action. So
yeah, they
Braden Point with an assist last night. Let's go.
That was a like if Brad didn't get that goal, I would have been concerned. That was a wide open net, and that was a beautiful pass.
Seth Jarvis. All of our team connecting on that line. Seth Jarvis, Brad Marchand, Braden Point.
Let's go. Team coming together.
It's probably not going to last long once the Eastern Conference playoffs start, or once the playoffs start, but that's okay.
It'll be fine. Everything will be okay.
I think it's interesting that like they can go right back to just now like being on the opposite teams.
Yeah.
Like it just goes to their professionalism too. Like they can stop what they're doing and go to just play it, being as teammates and then as opponents.
Yeah.
I do think there's part of it's a respecting. Like you have so much respect for all the other guys, but it is kind of impressive that they're able to do that. So
yeah,
we'll see. Hopefully, America, gonna
get to our predictions next.
Yeah.
Predictions coming in hot. I actually have a different one than I had last night. So.
Oh boy! Thank you.
I don't know. It's gonna be a moment decision for me. Whatever comes out of my mouth.
There's only 4 options, so
yeah, true.
You got 25,
I have
25,
it's 50-50 for me right now. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's 50-50 for a lot of people, but that's okay.
We'll get to it.
I was thinking about it last night, and I was like, it feels hard to make a prediction because we've seen 2 of the 4 teams play, so it's like,
yeah, that's true.
Tough.
Like, what are we seeing versus what are we not seeing? But we've got to make our calls now. So
we do.
Yeah.
Golden Stars in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, I think we might have to switch it up, though. I think it's going to be something bad.
Okay, we'll go.
I think we have to put the emphasis on the person that got it wrong. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But
don't worry, we can emphasize you being wrong. We love to do that.
Well, I'm not going to be wrong about this one.
You don't know that.
I know.
You don't know that. You were pretty confident about your Super Bowl pick, so unless you suddenly developed precognition.
And look who's wearing the stars.
Hopefully.
Yeah, look who's got golden stars on their chest.
Watch live on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back to Newhouse Afternoon here on ESPN Radio Syracuse. I'm Jackson Count alongside Geraldine Paglia, Samantha Barlow. For those listening, you're not able to see, but they are both wearing golden stars for their predictions 2 weeks ago. They both correctly predicted that the Eagles would win the Super Bowl. I unfortunately picked the Chiefs. Looked like a fool. It is what it is. So just had to go over that. But to continue our Four Nations talk here briefly before we get into Push My Buttons, who you guys got? Geraldine, I'll start with you.
Oh, this has been like a 50-50 toss-up for me, but I think I'm going Team Canada. I think that they just are a powerhouse. The players that they have, the speed, the offense, the defense, now that they're figuring out the goalie, I go Team Canada.
Okay. Honestly, I was also kind of weighing my options, and I'm going Team USA. I've got to rep it. I trust them. I trust their grit. And also, as a little snippet fun fact, they have the youngest age for team average, and they are the heaviest team for average. So I think they're going to be gritty, and I think it is going to be some rough play, and I see them pummeling some players. So I'm pretty excited about it, and I'm taking Team USA.
Sam with the numbers. our stats guru over here. I'm on Sam's team. America can't go against the homeland. Watching Miracle growing up, Herb Brooks, he's got me fired up for this one.
Fired up.
Some of the members of that team were with Team USA. I think it was yesterday, having a little team dinner. I got the Americans. I think they're going to get it done. I think they're going to get it done tonight. I think they're going to win the tournament.
That's okay. I'll be different.
That's fine. Somebody's got to lose,
Hey,
right?
stick with your guns. Stick with your guns. But now that our predictions are over, we're going to get into Push My Buttons. Again, if you weren't here 2 weeks ago, it's just a segment. We're going to bring a topic each week that makes us mad or doesn't make us mad. Somebody's going to bring a topic. The other two have an opportunity to push their buttons, say, why this topic bothers them, why it doesn't bother them, things like that. This week, it's up to you, Sam. What you got?
All right, so we're going to talk loyalty in the NBA. There has been a lot of drama between front offices and superstars. So that's been a big comment in the last couple of years is the loyalty in the NBA faltering? How do you guys feel about that?
Well, we both pushed our buttons. I think they went off at the same time. Geraldine and I both pushed our buttons. For me, it's a big issue, and I think part of this comes with me being such a big hockey fan in a league where I feel like there's a lot of loyalty. Some teams, not so much. I think Vegas, the Golden Knights, have kind of gotten a little bit of a rep of not being the most loyal. But for me, there's guys that you cheer for because they're on your team for 8 years. 10 years, 15 years in some cases. We've seen Sidney Crosby play with the Penguins for, maybe 20 years by the time it's all said and done. So for me, that's the biggest thing in the NBA. If you look at what recently happened with Luka, that one, it's like, this is your franchise guy, and just like that, just gone in a flash. Like, I feel like it came out of nowhere for me, and I think for a lot of people, just next thing you know, your star player, probably the player that your fan base has rallied around the most since Dirk was there, and you just trade him overnight. So I think that's a big issue. And then situations like the Jimmy Butler situation, Kevin Durant situation. It's been a little while. I know you're probably going to get to that a little bit, but just those situations as well, kind of where players just leave after 2 years, 3 years, and ask out. And I do like that the players have power, but at the same time, as a fan, it's so difficult to go spend $150 on a jersey if you think Jason Tatum's not going to be there or something. So
R.I.P. my Miami Jimmy Butler jersey.
Sam's upset about that one. I agree. I think as a hockey fan as well, like, you have the Alex Ovechkins, the Patrice Bergerons, where, like, they are the heart and soul of the team. You know that they're going to be there. They never leave. Like, they can rally the team in hard moments when they're down somewhat in Game 7. Like, and then NBA, like, you're just trading your players like it's nothing. And then, like, to Jackson's point, like, as a fan, I want to know that I can invest in this piece in these jerseys and know that this player is going to be there and that we have some type of culture. Like, these players, some of them are the culture of the team. And then you're trading the culture, and then what happens? Then the team's not playing well, they're not connecting, and guess what? It's because that player's gone.
Right. All right. We already knew that this was going to be a push my buttons topic for me. I am NBA everything all the time. The Luka trade was insane, and the fact that it happened in the dark without him knowing, without AD knowing, is just mind-boggling to me. You have this man who was willing to dedicate his entire life to a franchise who, like you said, had not been good since Dirk. Like, just had not been a good franchise, and he's bringing life back into it, and you have a whole city rallying around this one guy, and you just ship him off in the dead of night, no comment, and then you start slandering him in the media afterwards. Are you honestly kidding me right now? Is this a joke? And coming back with the Stats Guru thing, the Dallas Mavs lost like 500,000 followers in the 8 hours following the Luka trade. Most of them have now become Lakers fans because they're going to follow Luka. They're not going to follow the Mavs. Why do they care if you just slanted your superstar out of there for no reason? It's mind-boggling to me. And I won't even go too hard in on the Jimmy Butler situation because anybody in this lifetime who has heard me speak, they know how I feel. I have been in shambles with Jimmy Butler, okay? And if you look at his track record, he's asked out with all 5 teams. There comes a time, like, he walked into Miami and said, I'm winning a chip with this team. I'm retiring with this team. Miami is my home. And now you play for Golden State? Right. After 2 months of just theatrics and all of this stuff. And so it's not even just front offices not being loyal to their players. It's players not being loyal to their front offices.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can look at Damian Lillard, who gave everything to Portland, asked for one thing. He said, send me to Miami, don't send me anywhere else. Joe Cronin, not liking that his player was essentially telling him what to do, ships him to Milwaukee instead. Dame's obviously disgruntled his first couple weeks there, but settles in. He's playing well with them now. But how do you have a player who dedicates his entire life to a franchise like Portland, who has pretty much no accolades to their name? And he's one of the greatest players to touch a basketball. Like, he's phenomenal. And you don't even listen to the one request that he has for you. Don't even respect your superstar on his way out of the city. It just drives me crazy. And obviously, the viewers heard me say that my Jimmy Butler jersey is now worth nothing. Great. So I do think it's frustrating, and like you said, it's hard to not be able to invest in these assets. And when you watch other sports like football or hockey and you see the longevity that these players have, and then you lose that when you watch basketball, I think it just takes away such an important element of the game, and it almost ruins your fan base. How do you have kids growing up to root for your team if their favorite player is getting shipped off every which way? And you just can't build fan loyalty if you don't have internal loyalty on the team, and it drives me crazy.
Yeah, but to me, the Dame situation, I don't have as much of an issue with that one, because if you're a player and you're requesting to go to one specific team, it is hard, I think, for the GM to have any leverage in that situation. This player is like, hey, this is where I want to go. And it's like, all right, well, I also want the team to not stink for the next 10 years. I'm trying to get assets back in return. But just off the top of my head, thinking about like players over 30 in the NBA compared to the NHL who've played with the same team, Crosby, Ovechkin, Marchand, Bergeron, I know just retired. But there's lots of guys, especially in the NHL, that come to mind. For me, in the NBA, it's only been, like right now, to me, the only one is like Steph Curry, LeBron, like all KD, all these guys. And so I think that's kind of what's frustrating for me as a hockey fan is like, hey, this is the guy I want to cheer for. This is the team I want to cheer for. But if they're just going to leave after 2 years, it's like, well, all right, well, now I don't really like you. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have for now. We'll be back in 2 weeks. That's February 27th with more. Now up next, the sports show with Cody Mack here on ESPN Radio Syracuse on 97.7, 100.1.
This is Orange Nation.
The head coach of the Orange